I've done way too much, for this city. So I do think it's like that dude.
Joel Embiid is many things: an MVP, a franchise cornerstone, and a beacon of optimism in Philadelphia basketball. But on one frigid November day in 2024, he became something else: a man betrayed.
I think the last year of his life has been really momentous for him. I think in a way he's learning that he needs people more, but I think he's also learning to please them less. And that's an interesting place to be. He talked to me about being in therapy and trying to, sort of unpacking the feelings he's been dealing with.
What began as a private, passionate team gathering intended to mend the shattered Philadelphia 76 ERs turned into the spark that ripped the season apart. Behind closed doors, emotions surged, colleagues faced one another, and raw honesty took center stage. These were never intended for the outer world, but someone made sure they didn't remain secret for long. And when those private messages, those holy locker room confessions, leaked to the media, Embiid's reputation suffered. The entire trust system is what holds an NBA team together. Paul George, the former All-Star brought in to help the Sixers become contenders, finds himself at the center of a maelstrom. Whether directly or indirectly, his name became associated with one of the most serious internal breaches in franchise history. In this video, we'll delve into the treachery that shook Philadelphia to its core. From the moment Maxey walked up to Embiid, to the repercussions that left the squad in ruins, to the NBA's long and destructive history with leaks. This is the story of how one secret lost a team its soul. Because in the NBA, when trust breaks, so does the team. The 2024-25 NBA season was expected to be the 76 ER's redemption story. After years of falling short in the playoffs, the front management took bold steps. Paul George joined a group that already included reigning MVP Joel Embiid and emerging talent Tyrese Maxey. On paper, this was a championship-caliber squad. Fans believed, the players believed, the citizens believed. But within weeks, that hope had gone. By November, the 76 ERs had fallen to a frightening 2-11 record. The squad wasn't simply losing games. They were losing trust in one another. Embiid's leadership, which was formerly seen as passionate and forceful, began to draw criticism. Rumors spread regarding his tardiness during workouts and meetings. Some blamed tiredness, others murmured about complacency. Whatever the reason, it irritated teammates. The tension was palpable. Tyrese Maxey, who was still just 24 but was developing into a leader, was apparently becoming irritated. New experienced arrivals like Kyle Lowry, brought in for stability and experience, were met with a locker room that felt more fragmented than unified. Worse, the chemistry never seemed to work. Paul George struggled to establish a rhythm with the new system, and with each loss, the locker room pressure cooker got closer to exploding. Behind the scenes, team officials realized something had to change. The foundation was crumbling. What happened next would either rescue the season or break the club apart. On a frigid November afternoon, with the 76 ERs struggling at 2-11, veteran guard Kyle Lowry convened a players-only meeting. For those unfamiliar with the NBA, these meetings are holy. They are raw, unedited, and brutally honest. There are no coaches, no media, just players trying to work things out and salvage what's left. Tyrese Maxey went inside the room and addressed Joel Embiid, something most 24-year-olds would never do. It was not an attack. It wasn't a power move. It was leadership, plain and simple. Maxey allegedly informed Embiid that his tardiness was generating a negative tone. If the MVP fails to arrive on time, how can others be expected to take accountability seriously? According to Embiid, the conversation lasted around 30 seconds. It was not dramatic. There was no yelling. There are no threats. Just a rising leader pushing the franchise's face to set a higher standard. It was intended to remain within those walls. That is the unwritten code of the locker room. Whatever is stated there, stays there. But the very following day, ESPN published a thorough report, word-for-word reports of the Maxey-Embiid altercation. Not hazy rumors. This is not guesswork. The precise moment of fighting had been disclosed. Joel Embiid was infuriated. In a media scrum, he didn't disguise it. He labeled the perpetrator a real piece of S******. And now, a squad that was already suffering with chemistry was dealing with a full-fledged trust problem. Because the problem was not the criticism, but the betrayal. Embiid had been called out privately, but suddenly the whole world was watching. Someone in the room made sure of it. After the leak made news, the 76ER's locker room was not just split, but also radioactive. Whispers developed into accusations. Trust disappeared overnight. Then, to make matters worse, Paul George appeared on his program.
Shaq and all of them would testify to this. Somebody said something about Kobe Bryant. This is a true story. Somebody said something about Kobe Bryant. Kobe Bryant walked into the locker room before a game to each and every single player at the stall and picked the newspaper and stuffed it in their face. He said, "You said this, MFer? You said this, MFer? You said this, MFer?" Went down the line to every one of them. Because he was letting them know, listen, one of y'all lying to me. One of y'all, you ain't gonna admit it, but I want you to know what I think of you.
On P with Paul George, the veteran striker attempted to minimize the encounter, stating it was not really that heated. He said that the incident did not justify the media frenzy that had ensued, and he was perplexed as to how something so normal had become a national drama. But what he didn't say proved to be suspect. Fans, experts, and even players began connecting the dots. Paul George attended that meeting. Paul George hosted a podcast. And somehow, detailed information about that intimate occasion leaked out within hours. Was that him? Has he leaked it? Was it anybody from his camp? George never confirmed nor denied. However, his timing and tone only encouraged suspicion. Joel Embiid allegedly took special offense, believing that George, consciously or unknowingly, exacerbated a breach that should have been stopped immediately. The damage was more than simply emotional. It was strategic. Embiid's leadership was suddenly the subject of public scrutiny. Media personalities questioned his dedication, maturity, and ability to lead a championship team. What was supposed to be a private moment of growth had been weaponized, and the consequences were far worse than anyone could have predicted. Whether Paul George intended to feed the flames or not, his podcast participation transformed a quiet locker room conflict into league-wide news. For Joel Embiid, the damage was now irrevocable. When you are burned, you learn not to touch fire again. That was exactly how Joel Embiid handled the aftermath of the leak. In a shocking July 2025 ESPN profile, Embiid stated that he knew who leaked details about the players-only meeting. But rather than confronting them openly, he chose quiet. No name, no conflict. Just a silent, simmering retreat from the fundamental base of team culture. It's hard being around people that do those sorts of stuff, according to Embiid. That relates back to the trust issue. Once you cross that line, you can't expect me to participate in another team meeting. That was not a threat. It was a vow. From that point on, the team's most crucial player refused to participate in any further closed-door meetings. No more meetings, no more safe spaces, no more possibilities for treachery. Embiid didn't simply withdraw emotionally. He disconnected from the locker room's heartbeat. This move created a big leadership hole. A 7-time All-Star, MVP, and franchise staple had effectively disengaged from the one area where responsibility, unity, and healing were meant to occur. And the worst part? He assumed the leaker was still within the organization. A player, a coach, a staff member. Nobody knew. And that paranoia permeated every contact from that moment forward. Embiid considered his actions as self-protection, while the team perceived them as absence. His quiet was more than simply deafening. It was suffocating, and the trust that once bound the 76ERs together. It was gone, leaving a shattered squad and a superstar playing defense against his own locker room. What followed was not just a terrible season, but a complete catastrophe. Joel Embiid, who was already suffering with a left knee issue, played only 19 games. Paul George, who is currently recovering from off-season surgery, has missed the majority of the season. Tyrese Maxey had a hamstring injury early on. The so-called Big Three played together for only 15 games, and 6 minutes on the floor as a whole team. What was the result? A 24-58 record. No playoffs, no chemistry. There's no cohesiveness. What was meant to be a championship season became one of the worst in team history. While the injuries were part of the problem, the fundamental issue was something no MRI could find trust. Team meetings, which were formerly critical for changing course midway through the season, have become empty. Embiid's decision not to attend removed the emotional anchor from the room. Conversations seemed unfinished. Honesty became risky. As the team's captain withdrew, younger members began to withdraw as well. The Sixers weren't only losing games. They were disintegrating at all levels. Behind it all was one basic truth. A single act of treachery had rewired the team dynamic. From the outside, it appeared to be a run of terrible luck. But on the inside, the crew realized what had truly broken them. It wasn't in the knees. It was not coaching. It was not even bad shooting. There was a leak. One instant, one voice, one betrayal reverberated through all subsequent losses. In the high-stakes world of professional basketball, talent can win games, but faith wins titles. For the 2024-25 Philadelphia 76 ERs, trust was the first thing to disappear. A private chat intended to unify a faltering squad turned into a public spectacle. One leak, whether unintentional or intentional, set off a chain reaction that wrecked a season, strained relationships, and might perhaps kill the team's title prospects for good. Joel Embiid may have preferred silence over conflict, but his decision to quit was hardly a retreat. It was a reckoning, a reminder that when trust is violated, the consequences are not only emotional, but also structural. And now, the 76 ERs have more questions than answers. Can Embiid ever properly reintegrate with a team that deceived him? Can Paul George recover from being at the eye of the storm? Can the franchise build trust from the ashes? Is this the start of a long, painful unraveling? In a league obsessed with data, salaries, and highlight clips, one thing stands out. The biggest threat to a dynasty is not often a competitor on the court. Sometimes it's your teammate sitting next to you.